Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, my friends. Good evening. I hope you're having a nice Wednesday. I hope you're enjoying it. Middle of the week. Only 2 more days to go to the weekend. It's great. Um, yeah, sorry for the delay. I've had guests, so I was like, the streaming is not that urgent. But yeah, couldn't leave you guys alone for longer, so it's like this time today I'm gonna make it work, even though it's quite late. But yeah, U.S. markets closed for the week. Yeah, on a Wednesday. Oh, it's good to know. Yeah, it's Easter weekend though. What type of size you trading Doge with? $2.50, all in long, 100x. It's going nice. Now the Doge trade is actually really nice. I don't have full size yet, but I don't know if I'm gonna get it. So is what it is, but I'm okay with it. That's big enough. So we'll talk about Doge. It's the most interesting coin out there. People have been telling me that I am wrong on Doge because everyone talks about Doge. Looks like they've been wrong on Doge because everyone kept talking about how everyone is talking about Doge. If you get what I'm saying. Done with hat? No, I like Doge a million times more than with. It's Thursday, Don. Is it? Look at the thumbnail of this video, and you will understand. It is Wednesday. The thumbnail never lies. The people that say you're wrong on Doge do not understand that today is Wednesday. Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, before we start the show, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. Really appreciate their support, especially given they support us, even though we cannot tell Wednesdays from Thursdays and Fridays from Saturdays and whatever. Really appreciate that. It's a nice quality to have in a partner. They understand what kind of day it is today, and they support us in saying it's Wednesday. So, yeah. But yeah, go check them out. Links are in the description. They've been a pleasure to work with. Work, not walk. But I mean, the title is getting me all over the place because the title is the Doge is running, and it is. It has been. But first, we need to talk about Bitcoin, and then we can talk about Doge because I think that's the only altcoin that really matters. Are you going to buy a Tesla with your Doge? No. I think that would be the last vehicle that I would buy. I fucking hate them. They feel so unsafe. I don't know why people like them so much. It's not even like I'm not an EV hater. I just don't like driving Teslas. Like I've tried a couple times. They feel like they're falling apart and the brakes are shit on every single one that I've driven. Like you go like 250 on the, which is like what, like 170, 180 miles per hour on the Autobahn, and then you try to brake and it just doesn't fucking work. Takes forever to slow down. Fucking terrifying thing. Oh, I'm having a warning that my internet's shit, so fingers crossed it's gonna stay up. But if it disconnects, whatever, just refresh or whatever, you'll get it. And if not, we're just gonna have to watch the recording because that will be fine regardless. I just FOMO Doge. Why? Like I've talked about Doge for weeks now, and now that it's at a point where it could actually pull back significantly on a 15% green day, you're FOMOing. Well, it is what it is. 250 on the Autobahn, no Fiendestack. That's not even fast. I've gone 300 on the Autobahn before, which is, I don't know. You have to check that. Anyway, Bitcoin, High time frame wise, looks much better than last week. Last week was trading at the lows, like at the monthly open. I still think this is a risk, but it's only 3 days. So we have 3 days to dump this. If it stays like this, just looks good, right? So the risk of a shitty monthly is rapidly declining unless it dumps in the next 3 days, which is still possible. Oftentimes during the end of the month, you get the big moves. Like you have like 27 days of whatever the fuck, and then you get the significant move in the last 3. Happens quite often, but then again, we're heading into weekend and the US markets are closed, so there's a good chance this is gonna close green, which would be good. Like we would get a new highest close. The bearish setup would be somewhat invalidated, especially if it closes above 70K. So that's all in all quite good on the monthly time frame, as long as it closes above. I think like the next 3 days are gonna be the ones that matter, but a 10K pullback is quite significant in 3 days. Can happen, wouldn't be the first time, but also like I said, it's the weekend. It's less likely now than it was before. Stream keeps glitching. Yeah, my internet's kind of shit. I hope it's gonna fix itself. Nothing I can do about it. I wonder why. I have the best internet possible. Business internet too, so technically I'm guaranteed to have good internet, but apparently not so much. Well, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, weekly time frame, as long as we close above 69K, looks quite good as well. If it closes red, that would be a little bit problematic, because if there's one candle type I hate, it's when you get this kind of candle, right, as in this one, and then you get a wick upwards and close red and do this. Because then what oftentimes happens is that you just kind of undercut the low of that candle. As in, like, if we close red, there's a good chance we go back to 60 in the coming weeks. If you close green above this, I don't really see a big high time frame resistance. So yeah. But yeah, everyone's saying like the internet shit. You're just gonna have to watch the recording. I'm sorry, guys. I'll keep it short for you, so you don't have to wait so long. Nothing I can do. I also have guests in the house, like a bunch of guests, so it might just be that the internet is getting fucked by too many people being online. Let me quickly write a message. Anyway, that's that. If anything, you can also just watch it with a 5-minute delay or something. Sorry. So weekly time frame, if it closes green, especially if it closes above 69K, that's good. If it closes red, I think there's a good chance we're going to pull back further, but the monthly at that point would probably look decent enough, depending on how it closes this month. But like I said, it's not necessarily too likely to be too terrible, because terrible would be, a monthly close would be terrible below 57. Right, and I don't think that's gonna happen. If anything, worst comes to worst, these next 3 days go terribly, I think we will be closing in that red box. But it's getting more and more unlikely. On the daily time frame, we're trading in this trading range here. Bounced from support. It actually held, which surprised me quite a bit. And then the moment this turned around was basically, you had this inverse head and shoulders setup here that got invalidated and then reclaimed, right? Whenever you get this kind of setup, especially during a bullish trend, this is where it flips a little bit, just based on the fact that there was a bullish setup that got invalidated and then reclaimed. So that was the reclaim candle that makes you not want to short, basically. And then I ran into resistance, been struggling with that, right? So that's kind of where we are right now. Very close to all-time high. Generally, just not that bad of a chart. It could be much worse. As long as 68K holds, because at that point, like same thing, just on the opposite side of it. If we lose this, the reclaim of all of this basically would be bad news, right? As in, like, you have to hold 68.4. As long as that holds, looks quite good. If that fails, you would have a false recovery, false breakout to the upside, and that would be bad news. If it breaks above the red, like in general, I don't necessarily trust this too much. It's resistance, but I wouldn't want to necessarily short here. If anything, I think the short that would be interesting would be if this goes down and then does something like this. Until then, I mean, it's just not really that interesting on the short side. If anything, on the long side, right? You're like, oh, 68.5 holds, I'm betting on upside with breakout above 70. But I generally think, and this is what I've been kind of saying for the last 2 weeks or so, that Bitcoin is really not that interesting. I was like, Doge is that like so much more interesting, and that's been quite the good call. Doge is basically the coin, especially given how liquid and how big of a market cap it has. So the risk is quite a bit more limited than on other coins. That's been an excellent one, and we talked about this at the support, right? So I was like, on the Bitcoin pair, I was like, as long as it holds, like as long as you get a retest into the support, it's a really good buy. Got a retest. It's been rallying non-stop since, and there's quite a bit of room for higher. And the same thing is true on the USD pair. We talked about it. I was like, anything close to 0.1 is really good, but it doesn't really matter. You just want to get an entry, like when we were trading down here. I was like, you just want to get an entry, because if you miss it and it goes to 1, which I think should be the target for pretty much everyone, you'd be upset if you greeded for the last few cents. So yeah, I've been doing Doge. I bought a bunch of Doge. When was that? Like a week or a little bit more than a week ago. I tweeted about Doge a bunch. So you can check the date on that. And then, like, I bought the day before, which I'm up on quite a bit. Like somewhere here, like I'm up 40%, which is nice. Like, that's quite nice, especially given that other things are not up that much. Like Bitcoin's up a little bit. But not really that much. And Litecoin's up a little bit, but other than that, like, altcoins haven't been doing too well in comparison to Doge. Look. And Sol is the one that everyone talks about, right? So this is Sol versus Doge. And I mean, that's quite the aggressive move. And I think that's probably going to sustain. People are going to roast me for this too. Sol ETH, it's the one that we talked about a bunch. I got roasted for this quite a bit because I said here that Sol ETH is going to underperform. It nuked and then it rallied and I got shit on here. And I'm still technically my call that Sol ETH is going to underperform is still underwater by 7%. So shame on me. Anyway, I think Doge is quite interesting, but still is. That said, the guy that said he bought Doge today, FOMO'd into it, could work, but I would not necessarily want to do that. Like at this price point, after this kind of rally, I think it's a little bit risky. But if you like stop loss at 0, target at 1, still somewhat decent. Don, do you think Doge outperforms ETH? Oh yeah. The Doge community is still alive then? I know. The Doge spirit is dead. But doesn't really matter, does it? Like, why does the community matter if everyone is just convinced it's gonna go to one, right? Like if there's enough people that are convinced that it's gonna be going to one, and everyone on CT seems to be convinced, especially after we've been talking about it, and the normies kind of get memed into it, why not? Like one is not actually that crazy of a target. It's a little bit above the previous all-time high. Why should anybody buy Litecoin? I think the Litecoin case is really interesting. The Bitcoin Cash too. Like Bitcoin Cash is, I think, might be one of the coins that I might be coping the most about not having an entry. Like I've been trying to get into Bitcoin Cash and it didn't pull back as far as I wanted to. And then I didn't get an entry, and now it's been rallying and I'm coping hard. Same, like Litecoin is a little bit less so, but I think both of those have a really good narrative, and it's basically they're so fucking simple that it's very likely that they're gonna get an ETF at some point down the line, and they're so Bitcoin-esque that I think it may just make sense, and I think a lot of people are playing for that. Why the dinosaur coins? Because it's all about who gets an ETF now. And the dinosaur coins would be the ones that would get an ETF. The simpler, the better. The new coins, they're all like flashy. We can do this, we can do that. The old coins, they can't do shit, and therefore are quite simple, and therefore are candidates for ETFs, in my opinion anyway. So. But I mean, it's the same with Doge. Doge is quite simple. I think Doge could be down the line also a candidate, and it doesn't have to be even likely, right? Like you guys don't understand. Like these, it doesn't even have to be likely that they're gonna get an ETF. Just enough people have to be convinced, right? Like Bitcoin Cash is supposed to be like Bitcoin. It's trading at $570. Bitcoin is trading at 70,000, right? Like this is basically like people are like, this is another Bitcoin. Well, this is a Bitcoin that's trading at $570. Like you just need a few dumb people actually believing this, and then there's a lot of money to be made, right? And then the ETF is a bonus on top. But like it never matters if it's actually likely or not, because we're gonna always sell before it happens anyway. It matters whether other people will believe it or not. So if there's enough people that are like, oh yeah, maybe they get an ETF, and I think like it's not too far-fetched given the simplicity of these coins, that narrative comes about, right? You basically just have to think like, is this narrative gonna come up? And I think there's a good chance it will. And will enough people believe in it? I think enough people might, and then it's a decent trade. Doesn't matter whether it's likely or not. Obviously, if the more likely it is, the better of a trade it becomes, because then you can hold longer, because the sky is the limit at that point, if it is likely or not. But just the initial move and the first, whatever, couple 100%, decent enough. I think proof of work coins are deemed safe. No, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying. Doge better play than Bitcoin Cash. Yeah, I mean, but I like them both. I wanted to have them both, but Bitcoin Cash ran away from me. How likely do you think is a Link ETF? I think Boomers would love it. I would be surprised if we get a Link ETF, but I'm not an ETF expert, right? Like, you shouldn't be asking me. I'm just thinking about what other people in the market might be thinking about, you know? Like, that's how my brain works. I'm not the guy that's like analyzing how these chains work and then putting a percentage on whether they're gonna get an ETF or not, because that percentage would never be accurate. But I'm the guy that's sitting here wondering what other people will be thinking in the market and whether I can take advantage of that by just positioning earlier than they will. What do you think the Doge pullback zones are? We can talk about it. But it's quite difficult because, I mean, at the end of the day, where the fuck... Like the pullback zone was 0.19 here. And we pulled back from that. And now The next one is 0.35, and then like if it goes up there, maybe it pulls back towards like 0.25 ish. I don't think 0.25 would be too big of a resistance, but I mean, it might be a good pullback buy, whatever. And then there's nothing left. I think all the lines on the chart is shit on this one. You either think Doge is gonna go up or you don't. And then you like there was last week to position yourself, or like during the sideways. The sideways was kind of shit thing. Like I don't think it makes much sense to position during sideways. But here when it started accelerating and pulling back, that was a nice time. What are your thoughts on ETH right now? I feel like only the ETF can save it. Yeah, we can talk about ETH. ETH's interesting because it's currently failing, and that's a good thing. I'm really, really excited about this. It's like most of the other altcoins are not doing too well either, besides like Doge. Like there's a few altcoins that are doing well, but most of the sectors are not doing so well. And ETH's just breaking down currently, and it's breaking down from a trend line it's had since 2017, and that's gonna get people freaking out. And you can feel how the ETH sentiment has shifted, right? People they're terrified now. They're terrified, one, because the whole narrative that Sol's gonna overtake ETH has kind of taken hold, but also they're terrified because the TA just looks completely and utterly horrendous, and price action has been shit. And currently it's breaking down, right? And I think it's a good thing because this might accelerate the market downwards, the altcoin market as a whole. This could give nice pullbacks on other coins, right? Maybe Dogecoin pulls back a little. I still think it's probably going to be up. There's a reason why I bought it, even though I was like, oh, Bitcoin doesn't look that good. Bitcoin turned out to be quite decent. But I was like, Doge is so strong, I don't really care where Bitcoin's going to go. And turns out like I was a little bit too bearish on Bitcoin, but it didn't matter given I bought Doge anyway. So made profit on Doge, even though I was not necessarily completely right on Bitcoin. But yeah, I could see this kind of just start accelerating from here, given we're currently breaking down from like a lengthy consolidation and from this trend line. And I think that's going to be the bottom. Like if this accelerates and accelerates like quite a bit, I think that's going to be the ETH bottom, and then we're going to get a lot of upside. So that's quite exciting. I'm quite happy about that. It's my favorite case. Like pull back towards like 0.36 as like 0.036 or somewhere into 0.04. That looks quite good to me. Could the ETH BTC breakdown just be because Bitcoin is going up a lot? It could be. I mean, maybe Bitcoin just goes up to 100K and ETH BTC breaks down, but that's still great, right? Because then you're like, I'm going to get so much more ETH for my Bitcoin, which I'm going to have more Bitcoin because I think my Doge is going to go up against Bitcoin, right? So I'm going to have more Bitcoin and then I can rotate it into ETH. Seems quite cool to me. So, are you going to trade Doge in between levels or just hold towards one? So if Doge pulls back, I'm going to buy more. If it doesn't, I'm not going to buy more, and I will not trade it. I might trade it, like I might start selling at 0.7, 0.8 before one is reached, but I will not trade levels on the weekly, monthly, whatever chart. I mean, this is the monthly chart, you know, like the guy that FOMO'd, you FOMO'd right into resistance, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't really matter, right? Like this is a strong trend, even if it pulls back. I mean, this is actually like a much better chart than the other ones. If it pulls back like 0.12, seems like a decent support. Like if you get a market-wide pullback, anything close to 0.1 is still absolutely insane. Obviously, I think that's very unlikely. I bought because I was like, it's probably not gonna go lower. But if it does, I'll buy more. And then I'll sell above the all-time high. Ads, what the fuck? They're monetizing this. No, this is fucking YouTube. YouTube scamming me. We do not monetize this. We don't get any money on YouTube. But YouTube forces ads sometimes. Last week, with Cred, you said that bad price action into the halving would be bullish. Could you expand on that? Yeah, so basically, if we get shitty price action, people are going to assume that the ETF, the halving was a sell the news event, and they're going to get overly bearish, just how it goes. And then that's going to be by just generally how the market is set up. The opposite is true, obviously. If the market goes up a bunch before the halving, then we have kind of the opposite thing going on, where people are like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to infinity because of the halving, and then people get a little bit too bullish, and then it's likely that you get a pullback. So this is obviously all lower time frame, like high time frame stuff. The high time frame trends are still up. So yeah. Could Litecoin follow Bitcoin Cash and Doge? What do you think? I think Litecoin has a decent shot at it, yeah. But also Litecoin price action has been so horrendously shit that it's a little bit scary to buy, not gonna lie. Like, this is Litecoin versus Bitcoin. It's better than ETH lately, but it's still, like, that's a shit chart. That's a really shit chart. Where, like, this is kind of garbage, you know, like, that's a shit chart. You compare this with Bitcoin Cash, that actually looks quite good, you know, and then you look at Doge, and it actually doesn't look that bad either. So I think the Litecoin trade is the weakest out of all of those, but it's not the narrative that might come around is not the worst, but the price action has been shit. Any other meme coins you find interesting, even if you wouldn't personally trade them yourself? I talked about Pepe a lot. It doesn't matter where we look at it. It does matter where we look at it. Yeah, that works. I talked about Pepe a lot. And it went up like what? We talked about this, and it went up 600%. I still think this is one of the better ones, but it's up a lot. So, but if I had to buy any other meme other than Doge, I would buy Pepe. But I don't have to buy any other memes, so I don't. Anyway, FTM. Why is everyone asking about FTM? The fuck? Did I miss something? I mean, isn't this the one with like the coin by Andre? Oh, good times. Apparently, I charted this way back. I mean, it's not a bad chart per se. If it pulls back, there's support on the Bitcoin pair. The USD pair is just all over the place. What the fuck? I mean, it's not a bad chart. It's pulling back from where it obviously would. Like, you had this ugly looking price action up here, failed, and now it ran all the way back up here, so you'd expect it to struggle with this. Not a bad chart. I don't hate it. Like, it makes sense. I think it's not that dumb. This is obviously an outperformer in comparison to a lot of other things. Uni's doing well too, which is good. Look at that. Beautiful when TA works like that. Pepe, I'm still up 6 times nearly. Send it higher. Chad. Good shit. Happy to hear it. Someone asked how do you know when to take profits? You don't. There's a good chance, like, if you want to ride if you want to have this, there's a good chance that you're going to get this pullback. And you might be saying, like, hey, I mean, why the fuck would I be upset about this pullback? But you're going to, look, this pullback is 80%. So you would lose 80% if you just kept on sitting in it. But I think like the only person that's gonna get this entire run up is gonna be the one that's also gonna get completely and utterly destroyed on the way down, because you have to have a certain mentality to be able to hold through all of the upside, and that mentality will kind of fuck you over on the downside. But also at the end of the day, you're still up infinite amounts, right? So it's not like it's the only way you get like when you're up a shitload and something is trending really hard, the only way you get fucked is if you just buy into that really hard trending asset at the highs. If you bought this down here and you're like, I really like this, same with Pepe, right? If you're like, oh, I like Pepe, and I bought it down here and I want to take all the upside, then you can just sit in it and be like, whatever. And then maybe if it doubles in a day, you're like, okay, now it's getting stupid, and you can take profit. But there's a chance that it just like the coins do this, and then they pull back a little bit, you jump out, and then they do this, and you're upset, you buy back in, and then they pull back 80% and start going like this. Maybe bounce a little bit and then just go completely down, and you're sitting in your coin getting completely wrecked, right? So the answer to the question, when do I know when to sell, is like, you probably don't. The only thing that you have to kind of realize is that once the trend breaks, like once one of these things goes down like 50% plus, oftentimes into the 80% to the downside, that you have to sell the next bounce, right? That's the simplest way if you sit in it from the beginning. If you buy it late, then you have to be obviously much quicker with jumping out. But yeah, it's not as easy as people make it out to be. You have to be a little bit deranged to be able to hold through moves where you like up 10, 15, 20x without selling. And the only way to do that is by just being like, yeah, I'm ready to take some downside too. What do you think the max Doge could reach the cycle? Or is $1 the max? Being seen targets of 4 out there. I mean, that sounds pretty dumb to me, but I mean, it couldn't go anywhere depending on how big the retail mania gets. It can go to whatever, like crazy amounts, but I'm not going to bet on any of those. I think 1 is the target, and it might go to 2, but I think anything above like 1, and then people sell it, pulls back a little, and then doubles again, and then just fucking nukes. I think that possible. It's also possible it never gets to 1. And all of this move is just CT buying their bags, which fair enough. I bought it early enough that I'm okay with it. But yeah, nothing's guaranteed in this market. But the Doge move seemed quite telegraphed to me. You think ETH USD still goes up? I'm locked into Blast and can only hold ETH or USDC. I don't know. I really don't know. I think ETH's gonna be better hold than a bunch of other altcoins. Still believe that. But whether it goes up or not, I don't know. The reason why I'm trading Dogecoin right now is because I have no fucking it feels like Bitcoin's at a point where it could easily pull back quite a bit. But it could also just go up to 100K. So I'm just hiding in shitcoins where I'm like, whether Bitcoin goes up or down, I think that's gonna be somewhat fine. Like if Bitcoin pulls back to low support levels like 50, that's a 20% pullback. I think Dogecoin might go back to my entry at worst, like pulls back towards like 0.1. Maybe it goes back to 0.12, and then I get to buy more. So I'm kind of like, I really don't want to mess with Bitcoin, but I think Doge BTC is going to go up. That's why I'm trading that. With ETH BTC, I think it goes down. So you have to be quite bullish Bitcoin to be bullish ETH, I think. But yeah, Bitcoin might bail out ETH. And then if that holds up long enough, you might be up in USD for a while, and then ETH BTC starts running, and then you're good. But I don't know. Hey Don, can you in future give a heads up if you can't stream on Wednesday? on Twitter. That would be nice of me to do, yes, but I will most likely not do it because the reason, if I'm not streaming on Wednesday, do you say Wednesday or Wednesday? I think it's an American British thing, but I always wondered. Anyway, if I'm not on a Wednesday, it's because something came up, right? And then I don't have Twitter on my phone. I only have it on my work computer. And my work computer and my gaming computer are different computers. So like I just don't have that on. And then like that's just not gonna happen. Sorry about that. But it is a nice idea, and I do appreciate that. That's very fucking annoying when you're like, oh, I'm gonna watch this live, and then the person doesn't show up. And I'll try my best to not make that happen too much, but it will happen. What about Sheep as a running mate and catch-up play to Doge for the normies who will miss on Doge? I think Sheep is fucking stupid, but yeah, I think that's gonna full retrace. I think betting on Sheep is not the best. It's a shitty meme. Like, what even is that? Like, With at least has I mean, it's worse than Doge, much worse, I think, but it's obviously still like a decent chart, right? Like that's a nice bounce from support. But I think With, for example, as much as I don't want to buy that, the meme is kind of cute. Ship is just whatever. I don't understand why anyone would want to hold that. It's too established. It's too close in market cap to Dogecoin, and Dogecoin is a million times better. It's like a long-standing meme. And then if you don't want to have the long-standing meme, go with younger shit, right? Like go with Pepe or With or whatever. Sheep, I just don't understand. Floki is a decent team. The decent team people are back. Fucking hilarious. It's so the nostalgia I feel, my friends. When people are like, oh yeah, it has a good team. They have a website. There's pictures of the team on the website. It's just, you guys know, how big these market caps are, right? Like you guys understand how you're talking about a decent team. Look at this market cap. And Floki's like, that's cheap, right? Like, it's too much. But it's obvious, it's just how the market works, right? But Floki market cap, what is it? It's also fucking huge. It's a decent team, and then it's like bigger than a bunch of companies around the world. It's just some garbage dog thing. I mean, I'm not hating on Floki. I know nothing about it, but it's a little bit ridiculous when you actually think about it. No, like you cannot tell me that makes any sense. And a decent team doesn't warrant these kind of market caps. Like, let's be real. But yeah, I don't understand why anyone would want to trade. And I tweeted about this, right? And so far, like, look, Dogecoin's up 50% this week. SHIB is up 20. And then other meme coins, where's Pepe? Pepe is down here. Pepe is up 2%. And I was like, I mean, With is up more than Doge, right? But like, there's so much more risk in these than there is in Doge. And Doge is up more than plenty, right? And I could even see a world in which Doge goes up a bunch and then just draws liquidity from the other meme coins. The dumb 4x, 5x play, then I'm such a giga smart brain, and then be stuck in some shit that doesn't even go up. But yeah, meme coin's not been a bad place, right? Like if you've been holding SHIB and you're up 20% this week, it's not like you're complaining. It's just, I think the risk of the other meme coins is so much larger than Dogecoin that I just don't understand how they make too much sense. But I mean, it's just me. That's how I work. Oh wow, like the whole thing is rugging now. But I think we can call it a day anyway. Like my whole internet is rugging. Is what it is. Really appreciate you guys coming by. I'll do Casual Friday with Cred tomorrow. And then on the weekend, we will talk about altcoins, Cred and me. So you have a bunch of content coming up. We'll see how the next 3 days go. So on the weekend, we can actually even talk about the monthly Bitcoin close. That's going to be exciting. So yeah, thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. The questions, everything, hanging out, always nice. And yeah, big shout out to Wu for sponsoring the show. And yeah, like I mentioned, links